Hey everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a pure 12 build for the Fiend Warlock in Baldur's Gate 3. Not as popular as the new Hexblade Warlock that was added in patch 8, but still plenty strong due to its great spell list. It also gets an awesome passive at level 10, letting you choose any damage type and become resistant to it. It's actually pretty powerful build overall, and it'll be taking you through a full build from levels 1 through 12. Now, at the start, we're going to go with our cantrips here. It actually got quite a boost also in patch 8 because it added in Booming Blade, so now it gets not only the best ranged cantrip, but the best melee cantrip. And it's nice to have a combination of these, so we're going to go with both of these here. If you don't want Booming Blade, you can then grab Mage Hand to have it throw healing potions for you, and Toll the Dead is another good option, or even Bone Chill. We'll then take our Fiend subclass here, which gives us a few different choices for spells, and the Dark One's Blessing. Whenever we reduce a creature to 0 health points, it's going to give us 4 temporary health. This is our Charisma modifier plus the Wizard or Warlock level. We're going to be getting some great spell selection here, actually, with Command being a spell that we're able to take. And you can also grab Burning Hands here. I do think that Hex is probably the better choice because you can put this down on a target as a bonus action and then use Eldritch Blast for a bit more. Command is just a very powerful spell overall. For our ability scores, now you can go 17 Charisma if you use the Hags here to take it up to 18. If you're not going that route, we'll leave it at 16 there. And we're going to be putting points into our Dexterity as well as Constitution. Dexterity because we're going to be using light armor as you don't get armor proficiencies, and you can also put those points into your Constitution if you prefer, but I think a higher Dexterity works better. Level 2 gives us some spells and our Eldritch Invocations. Now, Agonizing Blast adding our Charisma modifier and Repelling Blast are two that I typically like to start off with. However, you can use one of the most powerful things in the game with Devil's Sight. So my typical way whenever I play is I like Repelling Blast for the pushback. Sometimes you can get some enemies knocked off of cliffs easily. And Devil's Sight, being able to see in magical darkness, is extremely powerful. We also can take the Agonizing Blast if you really want to, but those are the top choices. And if you're the face of the party, Beguiling Influence here can give proficiency in Deception and Persuasion, which is a nice thing to have. Now for our next spell that we'll be taking, you can go with Burning Hands. This is one of the spells that we do have here for the subclass, Hellish Rebuke, or even Armor of Agathis, which is my choice. I really like to have that defensive spell there. We're mostly going to be using Eldritch Blast and Booming Blade in combat. Now, once we get to level 3, we get our first, or I guess our Pact Boon. So this is a big boost to us because at level 5, if we take Pact of the Blade, we can get an extra attack. This is the best choice because there's a lot of really good melee weapons that can actually fit alongside a spellcaster. Pact of the Chain kind of sucks, and Pact of the Tome is not amazing by any means. Now, once we get to our level 3 spell selection, Scorching Ray is one that I really like here. This is part of the Warlock expanded spell list, so not normally accessible. I also like Hold Person because this can give you crits into your Scorching Ray, and Darkness is great too because we got the ability to see within it. If you're a drow, you'll later on get the ability to see in dark, or ability to cast Darkness too, so you don't have to use your Warlock spell slots on it. Level 4 gives us another cantrip. Should also mention Friends if you're the face of the party. I like Bone Chill though to stop targets from receiving healing. In Act 2, the final fight is pretty good with having that. Mage Hand is also great though. For our next level spell, I like Hold Person, although Darkness can be nice. So what I like to do typically is then take off one of these spells here. If you're not using Hex or anything, you can then go ahead and add it on with this here, as Darkness is actually pretty busted. You don't have to do this. I just want to mention you don't have to do that, but it's an option. Level 4, First Feat. I always like Alert. Going first in combat is a massive boost because we can sometimes free up one of our teammates in the load order. We'll also can consider taking a charisma increase. And if you had the Hags here on that, we can get our charisma up to 20 pretty quickly. Level 5 gives us our Deep Impact. This is a pretty big power spike because we get now 2 attacks per action. And we also get access to Fireball, Hunger of Hadar, and Counterspell. These are some really good spells. I always like to have Counterspell, but the Hunger of Hadar is like the Warlock spell, so we may as well take it. It does fall off a little bit later, but at level 5, this is really nice. It'll blind targets and make them take a bit of damage, but it doesn't have any upcasting. So when we get higher level spell slots and can't cast at level 3, it kind of sucks, but it's still a good spell. We'll also then grab Agonizing Blast for our next Eldritch Invocation. Again, you could also take Beguiling Influence if you want better face rolls. And then once we get to level 6, we get our subclass Dark One's Old Luck. This is really good. Call upon your patron to change your fate and add a 1d10 to an ability check. This recharges per short rest, and you'll be using it often. For our next level spell, Fireball can be nice, and Counterspells. I really like to have Counterspell. If you have someone else like a wizard or a warlock or a sorcerer on your team, you can let them take Counterspell. I really like to have Fireball for a bit of fire damage here, but you could easily enough take Counterspell just because it's so useful defensively. Level 7 gives us another choice in good spells with things like Wall of Fire being accessible. Although I prefer taking Fireball and just upcasting it instead of using that at this point, because we have other concentrations like Darkness or Hunger of Hadara. Once we get to our next level here, we then can take things like the Book of Ancient Secrets if you really wanted it. Dreadful Word lets you cast Confusion as a Warlock spell, which is kind of nice to crowd control. And Beguiling Influence, if you're the face of the party, is probably the best choice here, in all honesty, but you can go with the option take Confusion if you prefer it. Level 8 gives us another option for spells here. We can take Wall of Fire here now. Misty Step's nice earlier on, but not something we want to take with our increased levels for spells. And once we get here, we may as well take the increase to our Charisma, as that's going to give us even more Dark One's Blessing healing. It'll give us a chance to deal damage and more damage on our spells. Once we get to level 9, we get our next Eldritch Invocation here, with Minions of Chaos being a great selection. What's crazy about this is we can use this to summon in a Water Elemental, which can attack and set up Cone of Cold to get double damage, which is the spell that we're going to be taking here next. Cone of Cold, when hit with a Water Elemental's main punch, can deal upwards of 128 damage. Pretty crazy. So you definitely want to use this. It's good. These combine together very well. At level 9, pretty big power spike. Level 10 gives us the Fiendish Resilience, so you can pick any type of damage and become resistant to it. What's great about this is it'll always stay on your character, so even if you long rest, you still got the benefit. So pick one, and you can swap it out anytime you do a short rest. Great with a Bard, so you can have multiple choices per short rest. We'll then go with Mage Hand or Friends here at our next level. And for the spell slot we'll be taking, Hold Monsters is probably the best choice. Flame Strike is fun, but it's not really amazing of a spell. It can be an option, though, if you prefer having it. And once we hit level 11, this is when we get an additional Warlock spell slot at level 5. We get our Mystic Arcanum, which Circle of Death is one of the better options here. You can go with Eye Bite if you want to hold your concentration and continually keep putting people to sleep. And Flesh of Stone is an okay choice, too. There's also things like Create Undead here if you want to go with it, but Circle of Death is not a bad option. It's a large area of effect, and with certain gear, you can spread conditions on a lot of enemies really quickly, but honestly, take what you want there. It's not that serious. Once we get here to our level 11, our next level spell, we can go back and take some of the other ones, and if you have Mistress spells, you got lots of great options there, but Shadowblade is one that calls to me because this is one of the best weapons in the game. It's overpowered. You don't have to take it. Otherwise, you could take Flame Strike or Banishment. I'm just going to mention Shadowblade because if I don't use Shadowblade at this point, I get complaints that I didn't use something that's strong and I made a crappy build because why wouldn't you use Shadowblade? But I digress. I just want to mention that there. If you don't like Shadowblade, I'm sorry. I just have to take it on these builds or I get a lot of complaints on Reddit and things. But we can then take Banishment here or Flame Strike for our next level spell. Even things like Fear can be kind of useful to make enemies drop their weapons. And for our final feat here, we get our Eldritch Invocation Life Drinker, which adds additional necrotic damage equal to your Charisma modifier, which we're going to take up with an ability score improvement to put it to a +5 here. It's nice. The additional damage on our weapon is always good. You could grab the Lucky Feat if you prefer having that, and even something like the Medium Armor if you wanted to make yourself a little bit more tanky. Now, the Hexblade obviously has that built in, but this one gives you that Medium Armor and shields, and then you can increase your Dexterity using this, so you could actually get your Dexterity up to 18 using that. But I'm going to go with the Charisma increase. And that staff is the Arcane Witch staff from Skirby's Arcane Witch progressive set. And that's Argentina's gift from Aradea's Radiant Threads mod on Nexus. Now for our equipment, this build can do a little bit of everything. Since we can melee and spellcast, the Helmet of Arcane Acuity works well. You can use the Hat of Fire Acuity as well. Or you can use the Hat of Storm Scion's Power. And if you have the Drake Throat Glaive, you can use it on your weapon to get thunder damage on your weapon and stack it this way. A few great options. There's also things like the Haste Helm for extra movement speed if you prefer having that, and even things like the Power Quickness Hat if you cast a fire spell, an extra bonus action for things like your Hex. We also got Cloak of Protection for increased armor class. It's really your choice. The Potent Robe. Now, early game, the Protecty Spark Swall is the best robes. This is another good choice. You can go with light armor as well, but with this, we get additional damage equal to our Charisma modifier, and we get temporary health, which we're already going to get elsewhere. Now, what's good about this is we can, at later levels, add on things like the Robe of the Weave, which we can then use a Scroll of Mage Armor or have our other caster on the team be able to apply this to herself. I have the Helmet of Arcane Acuity on, so that doesn't work properly. You do need to have no armor on. So to do this, you'd want to put on the Hat of Fire Acuity, because Mage Armor will put our armor class up to 22 there, which is decent enough for clothing-based. And this will give us Arcane Acuity. If we cast a single Scorching Ray, we max it out, and if we land all those hits, pretty crazy stuff. Now, since we can do multi-hits, I like to have the Luminous Gloves. Whenever we deal radiant damage, we can apply 2 turns of Radiating Orbs. And then with something like the Callous Glow Ring, we can add that onto our Scorching Rays. I haven't done a build where I've ever done a Warlock that uses Radiating Orbs, but it actually kind of works well here because we also have things like our large area of effect, Cone of Cold, Fireball, and also Hunger of Hadar. So we got lots of great options to be able to apply these. And the 2 points of damage that you get from the Callous Glow Ring are radiant damage, so it will proc this. And since this procs a condition, we can then proc the Boots of Stormy Clamor. It's a great synergy all between these items here, as we can do a single Scorching Ray, get our spell save up really high, apply a bunch of debuffs onto the enemies, and then we got our spells, which we can land for certain whenever we have our buffs up here. I also like to have the Hellrider Longbow for the +3 to our initiative, so we go first in combat. They emulate a greater health for additional health, and advantage on Constitution saving throws, so we don't drop Hunger of Hadar or Wall of Fire, depending on what we're using. And I also have the Knife of the Undermountain King if you don't want to use Shadow Blade, because it also has some really good effects here, and it'll also help by re-rolling your damage die. And Viconia's Walking Fortress. However, we could also go ahead here with taking a free cast staff that has like an arcane battery, and then you can use it to give yourself a free version of the Shadow Blade here, which will then get at level 5 spell slot, and then that can give you that 4d8 +8 psychic damage. Insane that they let it get upcasted. I'm just going to use it because it is the strongest version. If you want to be very, very powerful, you got to use Shadow Blade because most weapons do a 1d6. This does a 4d8. And furthermore, that 4d8 is doubled by the Resonance Stone. It's insane. And then we also got Booming Blade. So yeah, that 56 damage is almost like 100 damage on a single attack. So we're pretty powerful. Also, the Asmodeus die from Favoring Colors, I think looks really good on this. And you definitely should use that. Now, when you're in combat, you can use another free casting staff, like the Staff of Spell Power, to give yourself an elemental. It can do its punches again to do Cone of Cold. I do want to mention that. I'm not going to do it for this video because it is a little bit overkill. This build is quite strong. But what we can do to first set up is we got Hunger of Hadar here, which is just a great spell to have in a large area of effect like this. And I can hit all these characters here, so this is perfect. So we now have that down, crowd control, they're blinded, perfect. I also should have mentioned you should bind your pack weapon as well. Now, if you want to bamboozle them, you can have a teammate with an Arrow of Darkness, or they can just use their own darkness spell. And you can then have an overlapping darkness pocket here. So we have our safety darkness, and there's the hurty darkness that we're going to be having them push themselves forwards into, which gives us advantage on all of our attacks. And since we can see through darkness, we can shoot spells at the back line there. I'm going through the Hunger of Hadar, which is fine. Actually, I don't have proper line of sight, so I'm just drop a Fireball right there, which will apply some Radiating Orbs and then take out a few targets, and then give us our Arcane Acuity stack too, and also give us the temporary health, 17. And this is a fight where slashing resistance will be nice. What's cool about this is you can pop this at any time, so once you get into the fight, you can then use your Fiendish Resilience here, and then get that resistance to that damage type. And here it is, damaging targets and applying some Radiating Orbs is amazing. So yeah, as we continually keep doing that, it's going to keep pushing them towards us, but they're going to be blinded in this darkness here, so they're just going to continually keep missing their attacks against us. Even if we, oh, that's not amazing. Even if we don't have our darkness though, we're still probably going to be fine here because we're going to resist most of the damage that they're going to be dealing. And once enemies get up close and personal with us, we can use Booming Blade to be able to take them out. I'd recommend using that as your first action there on whatever target you're able to fight. And with the sword here, we're likely going to be one-shotting most enemies here, as you can see, 86 damage plus the Life Drinker's 5 damage. Pretty insane damage. Now, I would also recommend to take Wall of Fire as a spell here, because this is going to give us much greater benefits than having the Hunger of Hadar out, especially as it's going to use a level 5 spell slot, which will then do a 68 of damage. And this is going to do some pretty solid damage. You can have this in a huge area of effect. Wall of Fire is pretty crazy because it's going to apply your Radiating Orbs better than Hunger of Hadar would, and it's going to do more damage. So I like to have that there as well. That ate up all of our spell slots, but not to worry. We got Eldritch Blast here, which we can blast away at 3 targets, which will then apply some Radiating Orbs, do a bit of pushback too, and you can see there, it took out 3 targets with a single Eldritch Blast. Nuts. And that just exploded another person with our Wall of Fire. So yeah, I like to have that there, especially on a build like this. We also got our Psionic Dominance, or if we had spell slots, we could have Counterspell to stop anything like that from happening, which is important. I always want to at least have something saved for that. So that's why I would recommend using Wall of Fire instead of Hunger of Hadar. Hunger of Hadar falls off a little bit into Act 3. Oh, that was very unfortunate. Oh no, we're about to get hit with it again. Oh, I was able to stop them. Cool. Oh my god, not again. That's the only downside of using the, if you have the Resonance Stone, is it makes it hard for you to avoid that. But the thing is, if you get hit with command, you can always have your teammates pick you up. So that's something if you wanted to get back into the fight really quickly, because yeah, you could, typically you're doing a lot of damage. So Use your cantrips. Booming Blade and Eldritch Blast, you're just going to spam those. The extra radiant damage is kind of nice because you're going to put more radiating orbs on the enemy there, as that can just be a nice way to chip them down over time. And Booming Blade is going to be your big, most powerful attack there, as we're likely just going to one-shot this target now. We probably could have just one-shot it from the start by doing that. I just want to show off the Eldritch Blast, but that is a pure 12 build for the Fiend Warlock in Baldur's Gate 3. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you enjoyed, and we'll catch you all in the next video.